xf3, long time theorycraft. Kind of just mess around, do whatever I want nowadays. But I'm the quote-unquote Yaoyao specialist today.
Yeah, so I do a lot of guide stuff for KQM, and I am today's Alhaitham enthusiast. Um, well, I think that the most obvious comparison, I guess, or like way to contextualize him in the game is that he is an on-field dendro applier who can have pretty extended field time. And so in that sense, he's kind of similar to on-field Nahida. But his advantage over her is that he does more personal damage, but he doesn't have any of the utility, like team buffing utility that she has, nor does he have any off-field capabilities. But in his role, he's pretty good. He seems pretty good. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So, his stacking mechanic is his mirrors, his chisel light mirrors. When he has at least one, his normal attacks, charge attacks, and plunge attacks are converted to dendro damage. And so obviously that helps him as a spread DPS and also to apply dendro with his normal attacks. And then when he does have the dendro conversion on his attacks, he will trigger projection attacks every 1.6 seconds, or slightly more than that, depending on when his attacks hit. And his projection attacks deal instances of AoE dendro damage. And it hits, like the projection attack will hit the number of times will hit multiple times based on how many mirrors he has. So if you have one mirror, it's going to hit once, and if you have 3 mirrors, it's going to hit 3 times. So this means that you really do want to maintain like 3 mirror uptime as much as you can, because that increases his damage and then also his rate of dendro application. And because his projection attacks have a special 2-hit ICD, for every like 2 waves of 3 mirror projection attacks, he's going to apply dendro 3 times, which is like a considerable boost to the amount of dendro that he applies. So yeah, I guess maintaining his mirror economy throughout your rotations is a big part of playing him, and you have to really consider how you're using the sources of his mirrors, which are his Ascension 1 passive, which triggers on charge attacks, his elemental skill, which gives mirrors and then also his burst, which I guess refunds or generates mirrors based on how many mirrors were initially consumed. Yeah, I don't know. Should I go into more detail? I could talk for a while about it, but yeah. Mhm. Yeah, so after his burst scaling got nerfed, what seems to be the optimal playstyle now is to open with 0 stack burst, like with no mirrors burst, and then wait the 2 seconds for the 3 mirrors to be generated from his burst, and then you start with those 3 mirrors, and then use either his Ascension 1, like a charge attack, or his skill to refresh the 3 mirror uptime. And then that can give you like 12 seconds of Dendro infusion total with 3 mirrors, which is pretty good. The thing about using his burst is that if you try to use it as a nuke with like some stacks on it, with some mirrors on it, it cuts the remainder of your DPS window. So you're not really gonna have any like mirror uptime afterwards. So it's using him as a burst quick swap unit, or like using his burst as a nuke isn't really as good. Except maybe if you have C6, but even then it doesn't seem that it's that viable of a playstyle. Oh, yeah, for sure. I guess based on context, you can definitely use it as a nuke, because if you're ending the chamber, you don't really care if you're gonna have any mirrors afterwards anyway. So. Oh.
Hello? Okay. So yeah, I was muted during the beginning of the stream, apparently.
Oh no.
Yeah, the Discord audio is working, but not the stream. Okay, so I think everyone
So I
can
was
hear me
just
now.
talking to myself. That's
Yes,
what it
you were.
sounded
You were
like.
answering. Yeah, you were answering invisible questions.
Oh no.
All right. Yeah, so I was asking your questions on Hytham for you guys. Yeah, one of the main things was, should you use his burst early before getting stacks to basically have free stacks, or should you be consuming the stacks to get a strong nuke? I say strong, but I mean, the nuke has been nerfed quite a bit, so it's not as strong.
Yeah.
Thank you, Twitch chat, for helping me out here. Okay. Also, the amount of mirrors he has also determines how quickly he applies Dendro, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So from what I understand, it's a 1-1 pattern. No, it's a 1-0-1 pattern at 1 stack, and then it's 1-1-1 at 2 stacks, and at 3 stacks it's 2-1-2-1.
Yeah, that's right. So at 3 stacks for 2 waves of projection attacks, you're gonna apply Dendro 3 times. Whereas with 2 mirrors, you're gonna apply it once every wave. Yeah.
I see. Oh no, we got a spam message. So would his energy requirements require him to play with 2 Dendron units on the team? Or do you think it's sufficient to not burst every single rotation on Alhaitham?
So if you're playing him as a spread DPS, you don't actually need to burst every rotation. Based on some preliminary calculations that we've done, it seems that bursting every rotation at around 140% ER and bursting every other rotation at 100% ER, they kind of average out so that you'd be doing equivalent damage in these two scenarios, which means that you can, like, based on what you prefer, you can choose to build 100% ER and burst every other rotation, and you'll still be fine in terms of damage. But that's for him being played, I guess, as a spread character, as a spread DPS. If you're playing him as an on-field Dendro enabler, his rate of Dendro application is much more important, right? His personal damage doesn't matter as much. And so when you're playing him as an enabler, you do want to be bursting every rotation because you do want to have the maximum amount of Dendro application, right? I mean, I guess in most teams.
Okay. Could you give us like an example of a team archetype that would consider him an enabler? So the chat knows and can follow.
Yeah. I guess like a Virgin team where it's Alhaitham, Toma, Kingko, and a flex character. In that scenario, Alhaitham isn't triggering any reactions really, and it's just Toma, and you want to make as many blooms as possible, and so typically you would want to have high rate of Dendro application. In like hyper bloom teams, because Alhaitham does apply so much Dendro, typically you do have some quicken up time, even with like Xingqiu, for example. And so in those teams, his personal damage does, I guess, matter more. Because he would still be triggering some reactions in those like hyper bloom, quick bloom type teams. But in terms of like Virgin and bloom, like pure bloom teams, that's where he's really just a pure enabler.
Okay, cool. So I know a lot of people are gonna probably compare his like field time, or like the way he plays similar to like Nahida, because they're both gonna be on field sometimes, applying Dendro a lot. What are some like significant differences outside of just like how their damage profile works? Would you say there are? Like, does it matter a lot that he's melee in a lot of these teams? Like, how does that affect things like Hyper Bloom? Does it change what kind of electros he prefers?
I guess it's like, I guess it's easier for him in a way because the range of like application from electro characters doesn't matter as much for him, or like rather that every electro character is basically gonna work with him. Whereas with Nahida, if you're like at range, you might be a bit too far for like Kuki or something. I don't really know.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that it seems like because he has no innate interruption resistance and he's a melee character, you can get like thrown around a bit. Although he has longer legs than Nahida.
Yes.
So Nahida's like a range advantage, quote unquote range advantage, isn't necessarily that much better compared to him because she does have some issues dodging with her short, tiny legs. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't really say that there's any like huge advantage or disadvantage that he has compared to her in terms of that jumps out at me. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I think Kuki's pretty good pairing for him if you're gonna be doing Hyper Bloom team. It's because like you're gonna be close anyways, and the amount of damage you're gonna be taking for being a melee, I think Kuki fix.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's just a lot easier to slot into a normal team because you don't have to worry about buffs. If like you're a casual player and you pick up Alhaitham, you can make a lot of pretty strong teams just at a baseline, because any unit that applies Dendro really well at a baseline can do well. Like with Hyper Bloom or whatnot, they don't have to focus on too many unit-specific synergies just because of the way the element interacts with everything.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
yeah, he's just a pretty good unit. I'm actually pretty positive about him. Usually I'm not positive about a lot of 5-star units, as you guys know, but I think he's pretty good. There's also not the hardest thing with building him is like getting your EM sands, but other than that, it's like pretty easy. He's also, from what I understand, pretty compatible with a lot of free-to-play weapons. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Mina? I know you've done calcs on his weapons, but like,
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me pull up my chart to refresh my memory. Well, okay. So he does really well with Harbinger of Dawn, which is a 3-star weapon.
yes.
And when you have the passive up, meaning your HP is above 90%, it's actually on par with Miss Splitter and Haran. So, and the reason that it does so well is because its low base attack doesn't matter for him as much, because like the majority of, but not the majority, but like about half of his damage comes from spreads when he's being played as a spread DPS. And spreads scale independent of base attack, right? His skit also has a lot of EM scaling, and so his total attack doesn't matter as much, and that's why Harbinger, like the crit that Harbinger of Dawn gives, he really appreciates it. Obviously, you have to play him with a shielder,
you can't get hit
yeah,
with the Harbinger and Dawn, so that's
yeah,
a definite like important thing to mention, is that item
yeah,
is very punishing, or the weapon is very punishing to use if you get hit.
yeah.
Typically,
But
I don't
like,
like recommending it to people, but
mhm.
I guess like if you really don't have many options, like yeah, you can just try to play around that.
Well, I think because he does have like the no innate interruption resistance thing, when you're playing him in a spread team, Zhongli is like a pretty decent or like a comfortable flex pick. So it's not like with Ayato, where Ayato's preferred teams never, like, you don't ever want to use Zhongli, really, right? So using Harbinger of Dawn on Ayato is like kind of forcing it. Whereas with Alhaitham, I think it's a lot easier to fit in a shielder.
Because his 4th slot isn't as contested.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I think Harbinger isn't that bad of a recommendation. Although people do have to keep in mind, like, the passive only works if you're not getting hit or you're not taking damage. He can also use like the event weapon, the umbrella, Tokabo Shigure. I have no idea how to say that, but and also Iron Sting, and both of those perform like on par on him. So yeah, the Festering Desire is also pretty good on him, because a lot of his damage is coming from his projection attacks, which count as elemental skill damage, and Festering Desire buffs elemental skill damage. So yeah, he does have a lot of like very accessible free-to-play options for weapons.
Someone in the chat asks, what if I don't have access to Cookie? Talking about Hyperbloom. Thankfully, there's like a lot of units that can displace Cookie. The most like notable one is, of course, full EM build Raiden for Hyperbloom. The only drawback is you have like no healing, right? But if you still want a little bit of healing, this unit I think is kind of cringe to use sometimes, but technically Dory Hyperbloom has some interesting uses. So because like the reason why Dory specifically is, well, she heals, but also the way she like with the way she triggers the seeds is in a like slightly staggered way. So like you don't have like 4 seeds turn into hyperblooms immediately, because you don't want that, because there's a limit to how many times a unit can take hyperbloom damage in one instance. So if you don't have Kuki and your Raiden's preoccupied with a different team, Dory is an option, and you kind of move around a bit in that team because you want the little taser line to touch the seeds. The little scuff. It's not an ideal character. He has like her own issues, but that's one way to play around that. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions on Alhaitham? We could talk about his constellations if you guys are interested in that.
It seems like somebody asked about his initial best guesses for artifact sets and artifact main stats.
Okay. Yeah, you can go over that.
Okay. So for artifact main stats, when you're playing him as a spread DPS, you want EM sands. Attack sands can work, but it's like your attack sands would if your attack sands is a lot better than any EM sands you have, then yeah, sure, you can go for attack sands, but it's EM sands is definitely preferred. And especially if you have his signature weapon, because it scales with EM, the passive scales with EM, he very strongly prefers EM with Light of Foliar Incision. For his goblet, you want dendro damage. You can go EM if you have a good one, a really good one, but it's not as good, or it's not preferred. And then for his circlet, you want crit. In terms of his best artifact sets, he can use the 4-piece Gilded Dreams, which is pretty good on him. And he can also use 2-piece mixed sets, so 2-piece EM, 2-piece which are gilded, the Paradise Flower thing. I don't remember what the name is. And Wanderer's Troop. You can use 2-piece sets of those, and then also 2-piece Deepwood Memories for the dendro damage percent. If you're bursting every rotation on him, he also can benefit from 2-piece Emblem. But as we mentioned before, bursting on him every rotation when he's being played as a spread character isn't necessary, because you can choose to burst every other rotation and not build any ER. But yeah, I think he's pretty easy to build in terms of his preferred artifact sets, because if you're just farming the Gilded domain, you can build his whole team basically using the pieces you got of Gilded or Deepwood Memories, and you can easily use 2-piece mix sets on him before you get your 4-piece Gilded Dreams set.
Okay. Someone also asked if 2 EM to attack is cope. I don't like that combination on him for artifact sets, because you're going to be having a lot of base value. You scale off EM in base attack, right? But he doesn't need more in particular. What he's really looking for sets is either just a little bit of EM, or having dendro damage percent, or even the shred if you don't have any other units to shred the dendro thing. So I would advise, you can use it as a transitionary set, but usually you would prefer to have something else.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention, his best set, if nobody else in the team is running Deepwood Memories, is 4-piece Deepwood Memories. It's just that typically, if you're playing him as a DPS, you would prefer to put the 4-piece Deepwood Memories on somebody else. And it doesn't even need to be another Dendro character. If you're running him solo Dendro, you can put it on, for example, Zhongli or Kuki or something. So, but if nobody else can really carry the set, then yeah, he does want 4-piece Deepwood Memories. And if you're playing him as a Dendro enabler, where his personal damage doesn't matter as much, then you can put Deepwood Memories on him. And it won't matter, because Yeah, he's just there to enable. I haven't really considered like other support sets that he could run if he's just a Dendro enabler though. Is there like tenacity of the Millilith? If not, I don't know.
I
No.
don't like that. No, because if
Yeah, no,
if you're doing an enabler team, you don't need to attack for something.
Yeah.
Instructor go.
Oh, instructor.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. Okay. Before we continue talking about this, my manager producer person has instructed me to shill Paimon bargains. But you guys do get something out of it. We are hosting a one Welkin giveaway for one random viewer in here. And to enter the giveaway, you must type in exclamation Alhaitham. And I guess just to talk a little bit about our sponsor that is giving this Welkin away, they're a Discord server that basically uses... They're like located in Malaysia, if I recall correctly. But they're in a region where Primogems costs a bit less because of the exchange rates. And what they offer as a service is buying top-ups at a discounted rate. So if you wanted to buy your $50 top-up, you can go to them and exchange them some money that's less than the current rate at your home country, and they will top you up through your UID. And it's just like that. I have used them before. Basically, I just sent them my UID, I sent them a payment, and then my account gets the Primogems. You don't have to send the password. It's similar how Coda Shop, I think, or there's some other service that uses UID top-ups, but you can top people up through UIDs. They're pretty cool. They're pretty fast. I got mine Primogems basically within like 2 hours last time I did it. So yeah, just like to thank them for sponsoring this stream and giving you guys the Welkin. All right, and continue. Alhaitham. Oh, actually, and we're gonna be running this. The giveaway will get locked like within 45 minutes or so, I think. So there'll be plenty of time for people to get in. Now back to Alhaitham. Do you want to talk about how his constellations are? Because I know people who really like him are considering constellations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been following his pre-TC a little bit, and his constellations, at least from what I can tell, they look really bad. They look awful, guys. Oh my god. I'm not gonna hide that he has really bad constellations. And I guess you can talk about like the first one, because usually people look at C1, C2, right?
Talk about
Mina.
the first one.
Yes.
He doesn't have a C1 though. What do you mean?
Oh,
what
yeah,
am I
that's
supposed to
true.
talk about?
It's like Ayaka's C1, where you get cooldown reduction on your thing, but it doesn't matter because if you do a proper rotation, you don't use the constellation one, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So like
his C1 basically has no effect on his gameplay, except maybe in like co-op or overworld, where you're just not switching off of Alhaitham. The reason that it has really no effect on his gameplay is because trying to use his skill twice in one rotation means that you're not gonna have the skill up in time for the next loop of the rotation, because the second skill is not going to have his cooldown reduced by the C1, right? Because it takes like 10 or 11 seconds or something of him attacking and triggering projection attacks in order to reduce his skill cooldown enough to use it again. Like at that point, you use the skill, and then you're like, okay, well now I have to switch off because all of my like turret uptime and buff uptime and everything is like gone. And also I have like other characters that I need to be using abilities on. So when you switch off of him, but your skill is like on an 18-second cooldown, and you can't use it again at the same early in the rotation. Next time he comes on field, right? So like you don't want to use it twice in one rotation. I think the best like potential use case for it is to do rotations that are shorter than 18 seconds, where you're bursting every other rotation and you use the skill once per rotation, right? So then you can have like a 14-second rotation, because you're like reducing the skill cooldown to that point. But the issue is that not a lot of characters really mesh well with like him trying to run 14-second rotations or like 13-second ones or 15-second ones. And then also you're gonna have like a lot of energy recharge issues trying to do such short rotations. So yeah, like his C1 basically doesn't exist. Sadly.
Wonderful. Well, you guys can save money on that, our Primo Gems.
Yeah.
You're not going for it. Yeah, if you want to make your Alhaitham team stronger, there are other avenues than getting his own constellations, I'd say. Someone in the chat was asking, is there any non-C6 cons that would be the goal, right? In quotes.
Yeah.
Not really. I think you're just satisfied at C0. WFP will have our constellation like calcs out, like showing how much damage you get per constellation, but it's very minor. And to explain like why something like C3 and C5, the ones that boost your abilities, are even worse than usual.
Yeah.
A lot of his damage comes from like reactions too, so it gets diluted a bit. So yeah, okay, like you really don't get anything outside like when you hit C6. But even when you hit C6, it's not really that like impressive. It's a pretty underwhelming C6. I'd be mad if I spent $1,000 to get that kind of bonus. It's so cringe. Because if you're a C6 gamer, you're gonna be having an extreme amount of like crit stats from your artifacts. Because if you're a whale, you should be having good artifacts just from like doing slight resin refreshes and playing consistently. So like the value of crit is just like lower.
Yeah. The other thing is that even though they changed his C6 to give him the guaranteed 3 mirror generation, like no matter how many mirrors you consume, it doesn't actually really open up like flexibility for his rotations, because you still need to save either his Ascension 1, like a charge attack, or his skill in order to generate a mirror after you use his burst in order to overcap, right? To trigger the C6 buff. So you can't get 3 mirrors on his burst to like for a nuke and then somehow get the C6 crit buff as well. Like you still have the trade-offs. So that makes his C6 not feel that like as great as it could be. Like it just seems to have a lot of restrictions for, I don't know why they've made it that way.
Quite weird, considering like all the other previous C6s were kind of cool.
Yeah.
Nahida, you got like an extreme burst of damage. Like Wander, you just had straight up double hits. Your DPS doesn't double, of course, but it gets improved, and his power fantasy of flying around killing people is there. And Yelan C6 is pretty good for bursting. Alhaitham is just kind of stinky, man. They made him, they gave him a stinky cons ladder.
Yeah.
But on the plus side, his C1 is very nice. I mean, not C1, C0. His C0 base form is really nice. I like it. Just don't look to push further.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you want him to perform better, if you play him with Nahida, just get Nahida C2 somehow, and then you'll just be getting good damage from him. But
true.
That's like one of the strongest constellations in the game, in my opinion, is Nahida C2. So I wouldn't recommend spending money to get there. Have plenty if you play a Nahida team. Or xf, he's just having to listen to us talk about Alhaitham. Do you want to move on to Yaoyao now, or is there more?
Okay, with Alhaitham, I want to kind of note, because his application, it might be faster in some cases than Nahida. What sets in is his potency of his application, and what it allows you to do is to actually get electro swirls, spread teams, which you can't really do consistently.
Oh yeah, that is true. Because Nahida, she applies 1.5, which is too much, and it's like hard to swirl Electro off of it.
Yeah, so you could get like this is actually funny, interesting thing, right? Sucrose, you can swirl, get the EM, you can benefit from it, and now we can transition to my character, right? You can run like a Yaoyao and then run an Electro, and everyone in your team can basically benefit from EM that way, even if you use like someone like Yai, right? So it allows for like more team flexibility, somewhat because if you want grouping, for example, you can bring Kazuo without him basically doing nothing in a lot of Nahida related teams. So, or like Venti, which I think is a one considerable like quality of life thing that he brings, even if it's like slightly awkward to use still because of just spread team building. So yeah. Also we mentioned that he had a sort of delay where his mirrors spawn on his burst. You can actually use that time to, if you have good enough ping and fast enough fingers, to swap to a character, do something, and get back on him in time. One example is Dendro MC's elemental skill, so you can funnel him, right? Starting off, which if you are fast enough, it is like somewhat viable to do.
Mm-hmm. If your ping is too large though, then you won't be able to do it. Or if you get interrupted, you get punished hard. But...
Yeah.
It's like a flex thing.
Yeah, it's. Someone asked, "What teams are you personally running if you are pulling? If you don't mind, talking about this, Mina, you're definitely pulling from, right?
Yeah.
What teams are you interested in playing?
I'm probably just gonna play him in spread teams. With like Yai. And Zhongli. They're just very comfortable teams. Or I suppose I don't know, like if you wanna run like the two Dendro teams on each side of a best, I think doing, for example, like a spread Alhaitham and then Nahida like double Hydro Bloom or whatever seems pretty easy and pretty good. So I might do that. What about you guys?
I will not be pulling him, but if I do get him, how I would play them would be the official Beto Bennett team where you snapshot everyone, basically. And you just do giga damage. It is actually super cool. I like that team because you can also fit the Beto-y within the swap timer. But you don't need to because you have official. You will if you have to replace her, but it's kind of hard to find a replacement for official in that team that works as well. I mean, technically you could play Yai, but that's like the Yai Alhaitham teams are kind of harder to pilot from what I understand. Like you have to do certain things with your rotation. But like if I'm Unga Bungaing, yeah, Bennett, Beto, official, Alhaitham seems pretty fun. He gets to saturate all the buffs pretty well.
I'm gonna be running Yai, then DMC and him and doing the stupid way too dank timings. I'm going to do the E timing with Dendro MC during the burst delay, and I'm gonna try to get the Yai 3 Tenkos thing.
Oh my gosh.
Probably one of the hardest rotations to pilot if you don't have good ping.
Is it also fun. The rotation that desyncs?
So it will desync if you try to play anything, if you swap out, so the way is so your first half is around 14 seconds, but you need to wait the end of your rotation 2 seconds to set up again because Yai has the higher cooldown. But you can also just burst every other rotation, which will fix it. But I like the hard rotation stuff, so I like playing those.
Yeah. Also, when he's added to the game, you can now run Hyper Bloom on 2 sides, which is kind of nice for a lot of people. Yeah, if you have Nahida and Alhaitham, you can just run Hyper Bloom on both teams. Hyper Bloom's pretty good right now. I think it's universally agreed to be very good. I know in TC people fight about exactly how good, but everyone definitely agrees that it is very powerful. But yeah. All right, now actually, Alhaitham's cool and all, but I think Yaoyao's kit is more interesting to me. It's more fun. It's actually funnier, in my opinion. That's how I like characters. I like funny characters. I don't like characters that are just strong. So even though Alhaitham's strong, I'm much more interested in Yaoyao gameplay stuff. It's pretty goofy. It's a different way of playing someone, like for a healer. Yeah, I guess right now we'll just swap to talking about her. I'll pull up her Amber page real quick, but this is our first Dendro healer. It's really exciting. Mainly because certain team archetypes want more flexibility in healer choices. For example, Nilou teams kind of like having a healer because you will die. And even if you have like a healer like Kokomi, you kind of want to build EM on Kokomi to do more damage, right? But then that hurts your healing, so it doesn't hurt to have both healers on the same team for a Nilou team, from what I understand. I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that, XF, because I know you've been doing the calcs on how much healing you need and will you live or die based on like artifact selection.
Yeah, so a good, well-rotated team and single target at least for Bloom, Nilou Bloom, is around 40k blue from just Bloom damage, right? Assuming you're running the right stats or whatever. And it's like around 4-star like weapon level gear. So that equates to around like I think it's 2k self damage per second. 2k self damage per second. Just from like basic numbers we can do right now on the Yaoyao, she will, if you're trying to like, do the whole low investment, my cheap slot in healer with my funny support damage set, she does not heal enough. Straight up just will not heal enough. With Kokomi though, because blah 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 EM diminishing returns and all that jazz, she actually doesn't end up running EM sets. You run like Ocean Huge Clam as your set. So with that, with a full EM Kokomi and Yaoyao like towards like a HP geared build, you will have enough healing, which is unironically really good because when we consider her application, which is around, or it's around similar to Dendro MC in terms of like Bloom-ish, and also it's especially at like higher constellation, but when you factor that in, you're basically taking either no effective damage from your blooms, and you're taking or you're getting a gain in like HP, right? So that's a big first for us because now we can go full deep in damage, and in AoE scenarios, you start to like kill yourself a lot faster than like normal. So now you can run your super high one-shot AoE chamber teams without dying, which is really nice for people who don't have like a really invested Kokomi or Nilou to like just face tank everything and just deal with it anyway.
Yeah, I think it's really nice that Nilou teams are gonna get a bit more love with this character. That's like one of the hard things with recommending Nilou to me is like there weren't many teammate options you can comfortably just slot in that will do really well. And this is like enabling the Kokomi Nilou team, like one of the stronger Bloom teams for Nilou, to actually like be survivable. Because before Yaoyao, if from what I understand, you had to kind of cut back a little bit on your EM on your Kokomi, like maybe throw in healing bonus just so you don't die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or
like it was either you swap fully to you drop, so the ideal is like, oh, running for funny guild 2-piece EM, but people found out like you just want to run for Ocean Huge Clam, and then in some teams, especially in AoE, you're like, I actually could not have enough healing, so you had to sacrifice one of your main stats to be HP as well, which cuts a bit of damage away.
Yeah. Also, like the nice thing about Four Ocean Hued Clam is it's the damage you're getting from it isn't extra self damage like the EM pieces would give you, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Also,
it's
AoE too.
regular damage. It's not double edged. Thoughts
Yeah.
on Yaoyao also enabling other hydros to be viable, like Ayato.
So, okay.
Mm.
So, like I mentioned before, the healing is really hard, especially without C6. The issue with Ayato and Child is that they're inherently going to be more AoE focused than Kokomi, or say like you're running Xingqiu as an off field, and driving with Nahida. So the amount of bloom damage you're going to be taking is significantly more, especially, it basically doubles, right? Um, well, slightly less, but that's too nuanced. But like anyway, it's like, so yes, it's viable, like that you don't actually kill yourself instantly. But the issue is that you have to cut their field time so fast because of the net HP loss. So it's still like not really worth considering using them. Um, you can already use Ayato off field, so it's not too bad of a thing. But Child still has the problem where he just will end up killing himself. Um, and especially because so say like we run Child, right? And also there's another team building thing. We run Child. We still want a healer, so we still like other than Yaoyao. So we want to run Barbara or Kokomi. Then we have to slot in Nilo, and then our only Dendro application is Yaoyao, and she's not enough. Essentially.
Yeah, it's a problem with her. I mean, she has the random targeting for the bunnies, which helps you get more applications out because you want to kind of hit a different enemy each time to, in AoE situation, get more blooms. But like on 2 targets, your application's kind of slow, unfortunately.
Okay, so with Yaoyao and healing for just other Dendro teams, because there's no self damage component except for Burgeon, but that's slightly mega because of shielding and whatever. She is okay. If you want to like, the average numbers ish is around 13 to like 18, or no, not 13. 1.3 to 1.8k healing per second. You average over a 20-second rotation. So this is okay if you're not like against like Rift Hound or whatever. I want to like also note though, because she provides also like zero, like, or okay, her healing is basically tied to her bunnies, right? If we basically make her an off-field unit just to heal, she heals a decent bit less because you don't have your burst bunnies doing almost anything. They don't do anything once you swap off with our current knowledge, right? So your burst is essentially worthless. You use it to like basically patch up your team, but that also means you're not doing damage in that phase because you're on-fielding Yaoyao, right? Where you're screwing up your rotation hard, which can actually be a detriment in terms of damage. Yes, you get more healing, but at what point do you consider not using her? With I guess like other than that, we can talk about like this healing more specifically. I don't think you should be using deep wood at all. Um, like yes, you can go it like for low investment. If you're gonna low invest Deepwood and low invest Maidens, you might as well low invest Deepwood. The healing is not that much better, but when you get a little bit more heal, like HP subs and whatever, I would kind of recommend going just Maidens, especially in Bloom teams and Burgeon teams, because ideally in those teams, your damage isn't really in AOE, right? Because Burgeon and Bountiful Bloom teams are inherently AOE teams. You don't really have a damage sort of issue. You have a self-damage issue. So you want to keep that first check. Sure, you might lose a bit of damage because you're like Nahida doesn't running Gilded, but it's like if you like the amount of damage you actually gain is almost nothing versus just being able to play the game longer, right?
Yeah, one of the things to keep in mind is like well, her healing in those teams, like in the optimized like Nilo teams, you're like kind of breaking even, but like a little bit more, but not enough to where you're like you can just tank enemies and you'll be okay. And if you run something like Maidens, you're gonna have a lot more like comfort in terms of tanking enemy hits because you're like you don't want to make it to where like okay you don't die to your own blooms, but if you get hit by an enemy you die anyways, right?
Yeah.
And like XF is saying, like you don't get that much more damage for running her on a different set and then allowing your Nahida to run gilded, right? It's not like the deal breaker of the team. So
Yeah,
typically
especially
for like
'cause, recently more people being more investigative of Nilu's teams. Nahida doesn't even own that many blooms. Generally your highest ownership is always Kokomi or Xingqiu, which means you should be running Deepwood on her anyway. She's not gonna. The extra EM doesn't translate too much. She's just there to apply Dendro. So you might as well just give her this set. She's like the easiest one to have 100% uptime on it also. So it's like, unless you just like have like a spread Nahida build, or you're just like, I want to use her also in Bloom, then sure. But there's like no reason other than like fractional like a DPS increase.
was asking what is the expected healing per radish. You did calcs on that, right? Do you still have your sheet?
Yeah, so per radish, if we include one A4 and no C6, right? Because C6 requires multiple radishes to hit, you're looking at around like 3k-ish healing per radish. Her burst will typically stay, or it will hit for like 10 times, right? So you can multiply this by 10, and then if you have C6, it significantly increases like her healing, well, comparatively, right? It's like the actual difference between her C6 and non-C6 is like 30%, which is a lot when you think about like just comparatively for herself, but in terms of actual like healing, it's not too much. It's like basically you're getting an extra proc, and which is what it is anyway. The issue with her healing is that like from what I've seen that people have done is that they forget her burst doesn't do anything if you swap off, right? And you don't really necessarily want to be on field on her unless you're really an aversion team, which kind of doesn't need it.
One other thing is a lot of the sheets you'll see on her like healing, though they generally have the assumption that she's getting healed per with all the radishes, like the enemy isn't getting hit by the bunnies at all sometimes. And the way bloom damage profile works is like you take bursts of damage depending on what part of the rotation you're in. So sometimes you might be fully topped off and you won't be getting healed by her, or like topped off enough to where the rabbits don't target you anymore. So her actual healing could be less than
yeah, it can be less than what she did, and it's like really apparent if you play ranged drivers, because it's so they have an AoE where they will heal and do damage, but what changes is the bunny's targeting. They'll either hit you or an enemy. But if you're playing a melee character, you can basically guarantee both, and it doesn't matter. But if you're constantly getting healed as like a Kokomi from a decent distance away, you won't get Dendro app, and you won't get any blooms, right, effectively from them. So you also lose damage there, and your health gain is like also kind of pointless because you could be far enough away where the blooms don't even hit. So then she's just kind of wasted. So like ideally you need to just treat her as like a band-aid healer, right? So you can't really like say that she's enough on her own, but as like an option, she can help mitigate some of the issues, right?
Also, from my understanding, she doesn't heal the whole team unless you use the burst, right? So
yeah, basically her whole team healing is a bit sad. It's basically yeah, if I believe it's basically burst only. So good luck if you're like swapping out a lot and you're getting a variety of damage. Ideally in the beginning of your rotation you're in burst iframe state, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it is kind of sad.
Yeah, kind of sad that they nerfed her healing. Like post nerf, it was looking very rough for some teams. On teams where you're not taking in a tremendous amount of self bloom damage, like let's say you're running the funny Candace team where you're hopping on Yaoyao and proccing blooms with her N1 jump combo. You're spawning bunnies and you're proccing a bloom every now and then. You won't be dying in that team because you're not doing enough damage to like kill yourself. But I guess like it how players are gonna feel about their healing is just gonna be very dependent on how well that they play their team and how invested they are and the teammate choice. Essentially, the more you optimize the team, the more apparent that her healing can be rough.
I think I can talk about non-bloom stuff.
Yeah, like spread.
So with spread, especially with constellations, it's actually really good. The amount of damage she can bring in. Also, she unironically buffs decently with C1. You get 15% dendro damage bonus. And then also stamina regen. If you play Alhaitham and do charge attacks, this can help you do funny dashes more. But also, so her application is decent around the level DMC, especially at C6, so she can get a lot of spreads in. If you build her like hybrid EM HP, it can add up decently, but don't expect like something like a full EM Kuki, right?
Right.
But in spread, she is allowed to actually, because most spread DPS have a downtime, or I'm talking about Tainari and Alhaitham, you can use Yaoyao's burst in the downtime. And then if you're Electros, if you're playing like a long-term one, it's like Yai or Fischl, like refresh Fischl, you can get more spreads here, or aggravates, which can be nice. And because you're not restricted anymore, you can get more team-wide healing this way, which definitely makes it easier for her to play. On also, Yaoyao, when she's on field in her burst, even though she is a short character, she gains MS, and also she gains danger resistance. You can just run around. And because of her talents, if you jump or sprint, she will also throw an extra bomb in the burst. So it's a lot of fun after your main spread carry leaves, and also you can get a decent amount of healing.
Yeah, basically you kind of just mess around for a good bit when you have her on field. It's pretty fun. Really entertaining gameplay and seeing all the rabbits too. I will say it is odd that she's like the first unit to have a deployable that can just disappear if you swap out. Not sure why they did that. I think it kind of sucks. That component of her kit kind of sucks, but it does force her to stay on field to get the healing. So I get like it's a gameplay decision, but people are probably going to be asking about like what weapon should I throw on her, and for the most part, I think Favonius Spear and Catan Spear are going to be like the two normal options that are just really good. I'm not even saying like just for budget, but like even if you have access to like all the other spears in the game, you're probably going to be running those two just because they help her utility a lot. They give her energy. It's pretty good weapons to have just because like her personal damage isn't that high in the Bloom teams. And even when you run her in spread, you don't want her to just be a damage unit only, right? You kind of want some healing from her. That's why you slot her in. Because otherwise, you can just slot in a different Dendron unit for damage. In that kind of archetype. Is Black Tassel HP not worth? No, it's fine.
It is, so, okay. It is worth if you're not able to proc Fav. This could be a thing in Nilu Bloom teams, because, as we mentioned before, the burst doesn't do anything if you leave. So if you're never going to on-field her, you don't need an ER requirement. You just burst when you need to burst the Team IP. And then her skilled cast doesn't do any damage. So if you're trying to rotate fast, you will actually never get an opportunity to proc Fav unless you're doing normals, which slows down your rotation time if you care about that stuff. So if you're not going to do any normals like that, you might as well just run Black Tassel for more healing.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not too.
Okay, I think KB's mic cut out. Well, but
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was just my audio.
so
No.
there's not too many. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, I think you're back now.
I'm
Maybe?
back now. Okay.
oh.
I don't know when I cut off, so.
You said unfortunately, and then it...
Unfortunately. Oh man, the Yaoyao mains have gotten me. What was I gonna say? It wasn't something bad. I don't remember. I forgot. I was just talking about like how there's not many like support spears, but at least you can just throw like on any of like the 3-star spears that we talked about, and you're probably fine. I think out of all the 4-star characters we got, he's pretty solid, no? Compared to a lot of the other ones. Like she has an identity, she does something, and she doesn't do a half-ass job at fulfilling it.
Candace.
Well, part
She's
of the
not
issue is
Candace.
She's not.
Yeah.
No one is Candace. Okay, we
so
could.
part of the issue is that like we don't have anyone to compare her with, right?
Right.
But it is good enough for the teams that actually do need this healing. It is unironically good enough, and it's like we can transition this right. Recent 4-stars have had pretty shit constellations. Like they're really bad. Yaoyao's cons are really good, like legitimately really good. C1 gives you Dendro damage buff, which really strong because you're basically going to pair with another Dendro, and you get stamina, which is quality of life. C2 gives her more energy recharge. The talent ones we don't need to really talk about. But C4 gives her EM based off her HP. This is really nice for Bloom teams, and also just like spread but not as much. But this way she basically can get almost a main stat worth of EM for free. And then C6 gives you like way more healing, or 30% more. And then also you get the little extra Dendro damage proc. So it's like, oh, also I didn't like, it's like kind of implied, but her C3 and C5, because they increase your talent level, they will increase your healing.
It's pretty nice. It's yeah, like I like her cons ladder. It's pretty steady, stable. Someone asked like how's her energy generation for Alhaitham for non-Nahida owners. It'd be good, right? I don't know what the exact number is off the top of my head. I remember talking about it to my staff and I forgot.
I think it is around 5 to 6 procs.
Maybe 4 to 5, I think.
Yeah,
but...
it's 4 to 5 or 5 to 6. I don't remember either. Honestly, there's not much we can go off of for Yaoyao because she's kind of weird. It's really hard to base off anything. But basically, it's okay. But you ideally want to run Fav if you want to battery another Dendro. What's nice is that Bloom don't really need the energy at all, and then in Burgeon, she'll be on field, so she's fine. And also, you know, we have Toma needs some energy, but alleviated a little bit with Keqing and Fav and whatever. But Xingqiu is like self-sufficient, and your flex could be whatever. So It's really only spread teams that could struggle with energy, but not too big of a deal. In spread teams, she's able to proc Fab a bit better anyway, so it's fine. And you don't really necessarily need to max out your health like you do in Bloom and Virgin.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can't tell if I think this character is not bad because Nilo teams are so down bad for good healers or what. But like, she kind of does the baseline job. Like, if I had to pick a choice between having like Dendro main character or her on an account, I know you always get Dendro main character, right? But let's say if I had to make a choice, I'd probably pick her.
Yeah.
More flexibility, and even if you want to go the damage pathway, it's like pretty close. She is more catered to AoE situations, though. But that's just the nature of turret units. Like Yai, for example, gets a little bit more damage in aggravate teams because her damage gets spread across a lot of units, and you proc more reactions. Same thing happens with Yaoyao. You get more reactions the more enemies there are.
I want to say it's kind of funny that, unironically, probably her title is Burgeoning Grace, and she gives herself Dendro Resist, and they did like some weird buff where they buff the N1 for some reason. But it's because they want you to N1J and probably do some Burgeon thing with like Toma, Xingqiu, and you just keep jumping and spamming bombs. But unironically, that's like the thing that's explored the least right now in pre-TC because we don't even know how the hell it works. It will be such a mess to figure out because we need to know the timings of not just her bunnies, but also her jump bomb, and then if the projectile speed of Xingqiu and Toma. So it's like
yeah, that's a part we just haven't mapped out yet.
her intended team probably, like, we don't even know how it works, but it probably will be the most fun team out of her thing. I think that's what sets her apart, is that a lot more fun than a lot of units.
We got the first unit to do damage through jumping besides Zhao.
Yeah.
But actual jumping, hops. See, that's awesome.
And it's like, it's C1 especially, you get 15 stamina, right? Every 5 seconds. And also you get MS, and you're just chilling. You're just jumping around, you're super fast. So you don't feel like you're playing a short character with like the stubby legs. She moves pretty fast. And isn't really like prone to dying because you have Dendro Resist.
Yeah, imagine if they gave her the Dory. I mean, not the Dory, the Sayu roll. Oh my god.
Yeah. What else? Oh, we know this from the live stream, I think, but you will be able to pick her for free. Pick her up for one copy of her for free from the pick thing in the next update for Chinese New Year. Unless you play Nilo teams, you don't like plan on getting Alhaitham. You just pick her up probably. If you play Nilo teams or like want to explore Dendro more, you should probably just pick her up. Because you should have a Xingqiu at C6. If you don't, then pick him up. And then the other recommendation, like Beidou C2, right? And then whatever. But if you don't care about Alhaitham, but you want to explore more Dendro, I like highly recommend you pick her up. She's really cheap to build. She doesn't require any of the annoying, what do you call it? Sumera materials. She just needs to kill the boss, which you could yoink up to someone else's world. I know, like, a lot of people did not like farming the Sumeru 4-star, so they just didn't farm them. So they're like, their perception is also just lower, but farming for her is pretty easy. So you can get value out of her even if you don't play the game, which a lot of people haven't, unironically. But also your options for pulling the banner, and they just released this actually, I think, as we were streaming. It is Alhaitham or Zhao with Yunjin, Xinyan, and Yaoyao. If you do not care, like, unironically, this is a bad banner. But so picking her up is pretty worth because you won't see her for another like 3 or 4 patches. You don't pick her up.
Picking her up through the free system, not the banner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab her just because she's like the only character in there that I do not own yet, and I'm very interested in just jumping around.
Yeah. Also, another thing to mention, getting 4-star constellations is terrible, and these 5 stars have pretty bad cons, Zhao and Alhaitham. So picking, even if you get get one of her for free, or I mean, if you get one of her pulling for Alhaitham or whatever, you should probably just pick her up. Also, if you want her cons, like just because this banner is pretty bad, and you don't want to get a C1 Alhaitham you'll never use or a C1 Zhao you'll use like once every
Yeah, both
30
those
seconds.
C1s are kind of.
So
Someone asked, why is this a bad banner? Right, it
why
has
is this a bad
Xinyan.
banner?
Oh
Okay,
no.
Xinyan is pretty niche character. Basically you don't really she doesn't really highlight teams. She will basically be the star of her own teams, which if you're looking for that, it's okay. Yunjin is omega niche. Basically, only 2 or 3 characters can use her really well, and
It's quite hard to build Yunjin sometimes on some of those teams. You have to
yeah,
stack quite a bit of energy.
she's pretty greedy in terms of ER, and also she really wants that defense too. So there's that.
And crit rate for Fav. It's
Yeah,
rough.
and then Yaoyao. So Yaoyao is basically restricted to an entire one element. If you don't care about this element, she provides no value to you. It's not like a Jean where she's universal, or like a Kuki where you can use her in non-Dendro teams and also in Dendro teams, right? I mean, it should be self-explanatory, like Dendro healer, right? For Dendro. But if you really just don't play any Dendro teams or need the healing, like if you play, um, like you're fine with Kokomi as a healer for like one of your Hyperbloom teams, then you really don't need to pick her up.
Asked, Eula can use Yunjin? No, not really. The problem with Eula Yunjin is you're in energy hell. Also Eula, although she does auto attack during her burst, uh, like phase, it's not that many autos to where you expend a lot of Yunjin's like buffing stuff. It's not really that good. There's a lot of characters that are kind of very competitive for Eula slots right now because Eula has a lot of demands. She needs energy. She needs some form of damage mitigation is appreciated, but not always necessary. But she also needs an electro character. So like, it's really difficult to fit Yunjin in. And even if you put her in, there's a lot of better options to put Yunjin instead of Yunjin. If you're talking about like C6 Yunjin giving attack speed, Eula can't really use the attack speed that well because the way her hit lag works on her Claymore, you need an obscene amount of attack speed just to get one more extra stack. Just like for reference, if you get Song of Broken Pines to R3, then you get one more stack than not using Song of Broken Pines. It's very difficult to utilize attack speed for her. And we're gonna hopefully have a Eula support next patch, or like the patch after this. I'm coping on Mika. They both have the same uniform, but that's me.
Copelium.
the, the very few Eula players left in TC.
Okay, yes. So Yaoyao's information just dropped. Like MiHoYo released the article for her. It is confirmed. When you leave the field,
The bunnies
they
die.
all disappear. They all
Yeah.
die. So it is her burst is basically just a panic button if outside of spread
Yeah.
or on field Yaoyao.
Like if you guys ever remember playing Barbara when you're new to Genshin, when you just switched her and heal for emergency, it's kind of like that. It's when you are about to die and you just do it.
Yeah, you just do it.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, to be fair, healers with their healing on their skill in Overworld, it's very comfy because you can heal whenever. You don't have to worry about topping up on energy. Kind of toss out your bunny and vibe. Alt tab, read Discord, and you're full health. I will not like discount the usefulness of Overworld because for the most part, people are playing Overworld instead of Abyss. Like when you do play Abyss, you play for like an hour or so out of your 2 weeks. about Eula plus Rosaria plus Kuki Layla.
I don't know
So,
anything about this.
I approach this. One Eula teams, Rosaria is pretty good. I don't quite like stacking Kuki and Layla together, but then again, it's more so like, how do I explain? The thing with Layla shielding is it's there for keeping your HP high, right? It's not there to give you interruption resist because Eula has like no interrupt resist. I mean, she has interruption resistance, so she won't get knocked back when she's doing her burst stuff. So you don't really need a healer and a shielder on the same team for Eula. You kind of only need one of them. And personally, like the fourth slot, you can either kick out Kuki or Layla and put in more damage. More damage being like Raiden. Raiden makes a Eula team so much more comfortable. Your damage profile is more smoothed. Or you can put in Shenhe if you're going to be keeping Layla, and that team's kind of neat as well. Oh, not if you're kicking out Layla. If you kick out, if you kick out Layla, you can put Shenhe, Rosaria, Kuki, and that's okay as well.
How's the clamage with Yaoyao? It's really bad. Generally, clam for healers that aren't team wide is generally bad because they don't make enough healing within the clam window for it to actually matter. One example of this is actually Kokumi. So if you use Kokumi just for E, clam is like actually just kind of whatever compared to tenacity. But if you on field Kokumi, it is significantly better to run clam than tenacity. Even team damage wise, it generally pushes her damage really high. So for Yaoyao, because her only source of healing is her burst for your team, it's like, okay, I'm not healing much. And also, she's she's not a burst healer either for a single target. So it's like you'll get like a let me see. So we'll just say we get 2 procs of this, and then we get 2 regens of this. You're looking at around a 6,000 healing thing in that window, and then you multiply this by the conversion, right? And then defense. And then it's like, okay, we have like or resistance, my bad. But you get like a what 5k proc. I mean, sure, I guess you can run that. Yeah, you get like a 5k damage proc, which is like sure. I mean, if you really want it, but it's not much. Especially because that domain is kind of low value. Alhaitham dripping 5 or 6 hours. Oh, shit.
You're asking about what set to use that then? Kind of just either
Maidens.
like the maidens. Finally, a usage because like it's a low impact choice. You might as well just heal more so you don't have like
Unless you foddered all of it, you probably have some HP maidens sitting around, right? If you don't, I don't know, if you don't have any maidens,
Oh,
honestly,
maidens.
if you have no maidens, get the pieces with the highest HP and roll with it. You can use Deepwood, it's fine. You just expect less healing.
can also do
Healing
2-piece
bonus,
tenacity too.
yeah, healing bonus on healers is a really decent like chunk increase. Even just the 2-piece effect. So you want to try to
Straight
get
up
it.
multiplier.
Yeah, there's no special like Genshin math funny behind it. It is just nice, big healing increase.
Very last question on the topic of Eula T. Eula Rosario Diona official would be valid. Yeah, that's like a classic team. If you want more information on this, Citri has done a Eula guide on KQM website, and it's pretty good. Twice is maintaining it right now, but they're both excellent people to work on Eula stuff. So they have a large team section that explains how all the units interact with her. But yeah, the team you listed is a very classical team, like done what like basically on her release. People were playing that because the character pools were smaller, and it still performs okay. Just keep in mind most teams with Diona in it usually have a moderate DPS drop compared to teams without Diona. But that's that's the trade off of having healing and shielding, right? I think Yunjin will have more value in the future. Kind of hard to say. She buffs only normal attacks, right? And she's kind of energy hungry. So, like, let's say they make a Geo unit that does normal attacks that can battery her a bit. Then yeah, it would be good. But like, I think people treat her too much as a universal like damage buff for auto attackers when it's like more there's more cons than what people usually talk about with using her.
Mm-hmm.
In the teams where you can use her, it does feel good. Like attack speed units feel good if you have like Yunjin C6. And it also makes your funny auto attack damage look bigger at the cost of like some team synergy stuff.
I'm waiting for Geo Candace so that on-field Zhongli with Geo infused attacks and Yunjin
Is real.
It's good. It's real, yeah.
Who here remembers that Zhongli used to not scale his auto attacks with HP? Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh god.
Oh my god. The only thing that scaled with HP was his shield health at one point. I was like, okay, bro.
Can Vortex Vanquisher Zhongli be real, please?
Oh my god.
It's
what else?
I mauled about it every now and then, but you have that weapon and you place pillar and you build stacks afterwards, like the pillar snapshot. So you snapshot at 0 stacks. His signature, you snapshot it.
Yeah.
You use the shield at the beginning. Hello? Who here actually like would auto 5 times on Zhongli before using pillar? No one does that. And they didn't. And this was like when the game was new, so no one like snapshotting was like a thing that only a few people knew about, right? Like the really dedicated Genshin players. So when people were like in like 1.1 or whatever Zhongli came out, they like saw his weapons like, oh sick, I'm gonna grab that to make him do damage, and then those who know.
Oh no.
Yaoyao. And then they released Homa, which is like a better version.
Yeah.
Dude,
Hello?
okay, on his second banner, Zhongli's second banner, they didn't even give him Vortex. They gave him Homa, but it still ran Vortex. And then people figured out, hey, yo, you put the wrong weapon, and then they don't do it anymore.
Yeah. I'm glad that doesn't happen as much anymore. They usually fix these anti-synergies in beta, or sometimes they'll let them go through. But yeah, is there anything more we want to talk about, or do you think it's a stopping point? Apparently, we've been streaming for like an hour and 30.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, these are 2 units that actually do something.
Yeah, these are the most units of Genshin Impact. No, unironically, C0 Alhaitham's pretty sick. I think people who pull them are going to be very happy. You guys are lucky. You guys get a good character at C0.
Pull the weapon though.
Yeah, don't worry about the weapon though. Don't. I would never pull in that banner. Holy shit! And I'm like giga.
Well, if you're someone who cares about drip and doesn't have PGC like me, you are gonna pull on his banner. So
you're
no, but real,
enjoyer.
his dual weapon, like his second sword and his auto string, it's gonna be green anyways, no matter what. So
wait, it's
that
not
is
even
true.
It's not even your Yai enjoyer. If you
Mhm.
follow whoever ITC, you
Yeah, you already have multiple jade
you
cutters.
have a Jade Cutter, bro. You Kokomi, you have Yai, you have Nilu. You would have Jade Cutters if you
Oh
follow
my god.
ITC.
So yeah, my quick summary of Alhaitham. Good spread DPS. He stays on the field, kind of like Hu Tao, like for a short period, or not a short, but like a moderate period. He does his damage, he leaves. You put the buffs on again. You apply your turrets or whatever. Switch back to him, and you got a very smooth rotation. The only tricky thing is knowing the opening, like executing his rotation. Like you have to do like a specific sequence. But other than that, it's not too bad. Yeah, he's a good character. You guys are lucky. I like him more than Wander in terms of performance. I was kind of like moderately happy with Wander, mainly from a like gameplay perspective. To me, he was pretty smooth for Overworld. But I think this character is just a bit stronger in terms of just team options and damage. Yaoyao is a cool character. We finally have a Dendro healer. People have more options for that. It really does enable Nilou teams to go stronger. I think she's technically the best character in slot for the strongest Nilou team, right? XF?
In AoE, yes.
Yeah, like and you play Nilou teams for AoE. Like you don't, if you go single target damage on Nilou, then you're kind of trolling yourself anyways. At that point, you just switch to Hyper Bloom. That's the thing with Nilou. It's like you put them. It's like how when you want to do AoE, you put in Venti for chambers. If you want to do AoE, but you have a Hyper Bloom team, you switch the units out for Nilou, and you're good. Someone asked, my sword options are so down bad. Black Sword or Iron Sting? Mina, you have the...
Iron Sting R1. Yes, Black Sword is better than R1 Iron Sting. But for R5 Iron Sting, it's basically on par with R1 Black Sword. So, I mean, if you have Black Sword, you should use it.
Yeah, not many characters can use Black Sword anyway, so it's not like you're stealing it from someone. Not a bad option, but if you have R5 Iron Sting, you're like Bing chilling, right?
You get the funny healing, bro.
So true.
Dendro healer, heal yourself. Thoughts?
Oh my god. What else? Oh, he can use Zyphos as well, right? Like just there.
Yeah, Zyphos is good.
That was his like weapon that they put on his art early, like or on the cinematic.
Yeah,
he
he
was
used
fighting
to.
Sino.
Yeah.
It was his weapon. He used it there. So
Yeah.
you want to be a lore fanatic and you don't want to spend money or drop a bunch of primos on a jade spear.
Right.
That.
But yeah, overall very happy with both of these characters in terms of like what they bring to the game. Doesn't feel throwaway. There's no controversy like Faruzan being garbage at C0 and use like really good at like C6 kind of deal. It's just these characters are very moderate. No, I can't imagine people being angry about these characters.
What I really like about this stuff is that if you're a long time player, this upcoming banner, if you like team flexibility, is pretty fun, or like completionist stuff, it's pretty cool. And you can pick up a Yaoyao too and get Alhaitham. Like if you're a collector and you've been playing for a while, this is a pretty funny patch.
True.
There are not many like long-term players who have a high con Yunjin, and also you're getting 2 Yun units and they're on the same banner. Usually they don't do this actually.
Yeah, they usually split them up a bit.
So this is really nice. I guess they would just want the Lunar New Year timing.
After this, we'll probably have... I mean, Eula and Shenhe are going to come back soon. It's been like 10 banners since they've available. I'm assuming, hopefully Mika runs with those and they work well together.
Someone asked about Archon rerun. Archons usually run 3 to 4 patches after they've been released once. Nahida's case probably either soon, either next patch or patch after. They'll just throw in the Archon randomly somewhere.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Archons are very consistent in terms of running. They don't like have the long periods of drought, right?
Yeah. They will either rerun them in like a new title update, like a 0.0 update, or they'll just drop them like every 3 or 4 patches. One of them. They know they're like kind of important, so they'll let you get them really often. Aika had that like funny 10-year long banner, so I don't know when she's coming back. But she is getting a skin, which is weird that they're not running her again.
Yeah.
Imagine buying the skin and you're like, you gotta wait.
Oh my
you have to
God.
wait, and then you lose your 50/50
Oh
Genshin
no.
moment.
I
Oh
guess they didn't
no.
really want to. Well, I guess they didn't want this Omega stack up the patch, because say like we didn't get Zhao, right? We would get Alhaitham's sword plus Jade or plus Mist, and then Aqua plus Homa. I don't think they wanted to do that. They want to spread out their funny banners.
Buy the skin even if you don't have the character. Yes.
Yes, you can.
Yes, they will gladly take your money.
It's an inventory item. It's not tied to the character at all. It's in your inventory. How they program it, so you can have it.
We'll wait for next year. I would advise people, if they care about performance, to wait for a Eula support that's good. If you just want Eula because you think she's cool or she's hot or whatever, then go for it. But right now, she's kind of the character that's been neglected the most. It used to be like, oh, Eula and Zhao are pretty like whack, right? As like 5-star units. But then Zhao actually got a real support, and he's like skyrocketed in terms of performance once you get C6 Farazan. Eula's still kind of there, down there.
Sedge. We need a Fizz Farazan. Unlucky.
You guys think we can end it now? Last minute question. Oh wait, we do have to announce the giveaway winner, right? We have to close that. The selection on the bot.
Razar still in our team? Who knows? Maybe we get someone. Maybe we literally get a Fizz Farazan. Generates us cryo particles from off field.
Yeah, yeah. Give me cryo particles off field, echoing damage. So not like a true multiplier, please. Maybe crit rate buffs, because it's so difficult to build crit rate on Eula.
Make
My
it
lord.
count as a normal for the on-field unit, so you get more stacks. Thoughts?
Oh, real. Yeah, you make her echo like normal attacks too. Yeah. Wait, no. Because C6 has a 30 stat count, like cap. So if you double her stack, C6 does
Oh
nothing.
my.
No. You would have to cut your rotation shorter to make C6 do something. This is neglected so much. I don't even think like the Eula problem is it's a Fizz problem. I don't think that's quite it. It's just they gave her really weird mechanics and properties. Like they could have easily made her bursts expend energy at a normal time period, but they didn't. Okay. Hopefully it's not my staff again, because then people will say it's rigged. It's been happening every now and then. Aveline. No, yeah, I think I won one of the WP giveaways as well.
Oh no.
At one point.
Oh
It was for
my
the
God.
translation live stream. I'm like, oh, sick. Is this Aveline person here? Oh no, we have to reroll if they don't appear, which means you guys get a chance. Aveline. Maybe.
Any responders?
Can you ping them in Twitch chat?
Like, very Twitch illiterate, surprisingly.
It will not make a sound though. It is just a red highlight message.
Oh.
Gotta be here.
All right. All right. I guess we can re-roll. Okay, we have a new winner. ST Steph 14. Are you here?
You misspelled that.
Did I?
The thing. Yeah.
Awakage.
Wait, no. Oh no. All right, I guess we're gonna re-roll again. Mina, are you gonna be doing the full Alhaitham guide on Keqing, or is it gonna be a different?
Yeah.
Okay. Heard you guys already are getting ready to start on that.
Yeah, people have been writing stuff.
Oh, they're getting ready to write stuff, right, Mina?
Oh, sorry, yes. No, they've just been working from the preview, the trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be writing a Yaoyao guide. I'll make a video on her actually, maybe, or something, or write something small, like small. I don't
Well,
think
you're
the
good.
character's guide worthy. for me at least. I don't really like characters that are just like really set in stone, just kind of.
Oh my god, wait.
You'll
I think
probably
this
have.
person's in the chat. Don Zavery.
Oh.
Are you here?
Oh,
Please
shit.
tell me you're here. You asked a question. Please. Get your Vulcan. We're trying to give this away. This is free Primo Gems. Real.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, he's here. Okay. Or they're here. Okay. Wait. I think Yami will contact you. There should be. She's in this Twitch chat. Yamiru. Oh no, she'll DM you with instructions on how to get your free Vulcan. You probably just have to give UID and it'll get sent over. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and I guess we'll end the recording here for the VOD. But yeah, I am KB, one of the leads at WFP, and I'd like to thank my guests again. XF, one of the senior TC people in KQM, done a lot of guides. Good work. Mina, thank you for helping us. She's also now she's recently got a promotion in KQM to assistant director or something like that. But she manages a lot of the guide stuff. She's gonna be working on the Alhaitham guide, the full one that's gonna cover a lot of his information. So looking forward to that. Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. All right, see you guys later.